Hey everyone, welcome back to a special Dev Radio series where we've been looking at the GraphQL and Blazor Toolkit. We looked at how to set it up, we've looked at how to customize the UI, we looked at how to use the IDE to customize the results of our queries. It's been exciting content, but want to get even deeper into the code. So definitely want to look at that C# code that's used to power that GraphQL API. So Sameer, welcome back to the show. As always, we got Matt here. Samir, I'm getting so much good content in this series. I just want to be quiet and step aside and just let you take the stage because you've been sharing so much amazing stuff with us.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Well, let's go back into it. So to bring everyone back, we've created this starter kit so that you can get to value quickly in a secure fashion. So with that, we talked through the IDE banana cake pop that came with GraphQL, but let's actually go through the code and look at how we can modify some of the responses and what else we could potentially do with the starter kit. So while we want you to pull it down, we want you to also be able to modify it quickly. We do want you to know that there's a lot more capabilities that are out here for you to use. So if I look in the GraphQL project, I'm going to immediately see just a standard .NET project. So I've got my startup, I've got my program, and the classes that I want you to really draw your attention to are very quickly under resolvers. So in GraphQL, things like queries, mutations, and other things are called resolvers, and we'll look into the single query resolver that we've included as part of the starter kit. So let's pop it open. And I won't scroll down too much because I want you to just pay attention to the welcome message. So this is a standard .NET C# kind of looking class file, nothing out of the ordinary here. Notice that we're using the HotChocolate packages that I talked about, the open source GraphQL library. And this is a really simple method. It's just the name of the method that we were calling in the GraphQL IDE. We're passing in a claims principal, just like you would in any kind of standard .NET method. And then we're just returning a string. And we could do things like modify this string. We could insert in a new date time endpoint. For the sake of our quick little demo here, we'll say hi, and we'll leave the identity in there.
And so this claims principle is tied to our to our authentication authorization. So once we get our claims in, we can use those values. If we weren't using any type of auth, do we even like? Was there a version of this if GraphQL wasn't authenticated where we don't have to pass anything into the method?
Exactly. In fact, while we're here and you're asking a pretty good question, why don't we code in something that returns a date, and we'll call it a
Oh no, I
Sydney.
created my own endpoint. Sydney's call. Completely unauthenticated. It's open for the whole world. Do you mind zooming in?
Absolutely. So all we're doing is we've created a new method, Sydney's call, not passing in anything, and we're saying no auth passed in. Now, I do want to point out that our starter kit, we tried to make it so that it's going to be safe from the start. So this file, along with any endpoints you create in here, are automatically already authenticated. We're not passing in the claims principal because we're not going to actually access any of that authorization information.
So this doesn't bypass auth. This just doesn't use that information.
Exactly. And there are tags within the HotChocolate framework if you want to bypass auth, but we don't have them in here. They basically will look something like a authorize, and you'll pass in a false.
Yeah, let's not show people that. We want to be secure by default. No,
right.
Insecure code. Yeah, that doesn't work.
So just to remind everyone, what we've done is we had one of our stakeholders, Sydney, say, hey, can I get a request that doesn't have any auth passed in? And so we're quickly creating an endpoint. If I was to go into Banana Cake Pop now and look at the schema, I'd see a new one called Sydney's Call, and it would return a string. And that's cool. But like that's not the real world. In the real world, we're doing much more complex things. So what we would typically do is look at a complex object. So in the case of our starter kit, we've included some models that are based on the HL7 FHIR standard. And you can see there's a lot of them here. But the one that we're going to be really looking at, and we'll talk about these within the README of the starter kit under an advanced section. But let's take a look at this questionnaire class. So here I popped it open. This is a POCO class, right? Got a questionnaire style. We can see what it implements, and we've got some complex JSON properties, URL identifiers, etc. We have some of them that are required, some of them that are not. And part of the reason that we have these as JSON properties is because we're expecting to get them from another server. So typically, you wouldn't do what I did before and make a change right into the mutate class or into the query class. What you'd end up doing is letting GraphQL be the front end, if you will, even though letting GraphQL be the middleware is a better word for it, in front of some other API. So you could have GraphQL directly access a database, but more than likely, if you're in healthcare or in most organizations, you've already got a mature set of REST APIs, databases, or just other APIs in general created. And so what you will probably want to do is front those with GraphQL. So instead of calling my API directly, I'm going to call GraphQL. GraphQL is going to call my API. And before I hear the worried looks already coming from some network engineers saying, well, wait a second, I'm adding a second point. Isn't that going to cause a lot of latency and delay? And the answer is, if you're making single individual calls, maybe it'll cause some delay. GraphQL is actually pretty fast. You can actually have it run within an Azure function or just have it run as a web app. But the fact that you can group the queries together means that you will make very, very quick calls, because the quickest call is the call that isn't made. So instead of making 16 calls to 16 APIs, you can make one call from your endpoint. So say your mobile phone, a single call from your mobile phone over 3G to a single endpoint that then goes and fans the request out to all of your APIs, fans them back in, and sends a single call back. So in reality, probably actually faster.
Yeah, we can fan requests out on endpoints we control, on networks that we can monitor and manage the performance and throughput of, rather than depending on the client device's throughput to be enough for us to make 20 requests.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So let's go back to the query class and let's look at the other query that we had in here. So we've included this as part of a starter kit, and it's some demo code to let you know how this would be done. And I'll walk you through a little bit more complex example in just a moment as well. Okay, so this was the other one. It's called Get Questionnaires. And we saw that GraphQL stripped off this get for us in the schema. And the only thing we had there is questionnaires. You see we're not passing in any inputs and no input required. And we are returning just a brand new list of questionnaires. I'm creating some dummy questionnaires. What I could do, and what I haven't done in the sample, is I could use Entity Framework to go and fetch things and return that to GraphQL. What you could also do, and we have included some sample code to show you how this could be done, is you could, for example, here we are, services. You could create a class like Here's our interface, our Fire service class to front end a Fire server, where we're gonna have get questionnaire. We're gonna return a list of questionnaires. We've included an in-memory version of this, but you could, in fact, include one that actually goes and makes a call to a Fire service.
Sure.
Go and actually get the questionnaires right from your database or your API. So basically what I'm telling you is what you can do in GraphQL and what you probably should be doing is writing your GraphQL so that your GraphQL acts as a middleware, goes to existing resources or to brand new resources, and goes and collects and assembles the data so that you've got it all in one place.
Yeah, and by using that interface, we can mock out the provider or ORM when we do our unit testing or integration testing. So that's, again, really well thought out in the toolkit.
Exactly what we were hoping. What I'm hoping to hear. So one other thing that I want to show you, and just to show you how easy it is to create methods, let's go ahead and create a quick other method. And you know what? Let's not return a string. Let's return an int this time, and we'll call it our get addition. Let's take in an input that is an Adam. I think that's how you spell it.
I have no idea.
And let's return that Adam plus 1. And the idea here is I want to show you a simple example where we're taking in input. And let's just go ahead and hit F5 and run this. And by the way, I'm showing you simple examples. Right in the README for the repo, we've linked to the HotChocolate repository where they've got example after example, exhaustive lists of ways you can implement Fire backends or GraphQL backends. Okay, so here's our banana cake pop. Hopefully, I won't have to grab a new token. We can see by clicking the button over there, which was refresh schema. We'll go over here on the left and look at our schema.
All right.
Look at that. We've got some more things here. Okay, so let's go. Oh, let's not write in the output window again.
I think it was the console button at the bottom of the screen that opened the input window. It's good that we're showing everybody live how to navigate this UI because if you're like me, it took me way too long to figure it out. Once I figured it out, I was like, oh, this is super easy. But yeah, there's a console button at the bottom that opens the input. Oh, that wasn't it. I know there was some button. Maybe you have to drag it over.
Oh, I remember what it was. Let's hide this schema.
There we go. We're zoomed in too far.
That's exactly what it is. We needed to be zoomed out, and it's being responsive, which is causing a problem for us. Okay, so let's be a true front-end developer and just keep adding stuff to our query here. So we added a couple of things. Let's add so I'm going to do control space because I don't remember what we called them. We added this addition method.
You got to pass in an integer, right?
Exactly. So I'm going to hit it wants me to type in the integer. There we go. Okay, I hit control space several times, and then it's telling me, okay, what do you want this? What is the variable named? Adam. What is the value? This is in JSON. So we'll say 3. Right, and we'll get the thing, and we'll just also add in our call, Sydney call, right in here. Oh, no input required. All right, so we're going to do two things. First, we're going to call this, and then we're going to go and integrate this into our UI app just to show an end-to-end example. So we're going to hit play, and boom, we've got all kinds of stuff coming back at us, right?
Yeah.
We've got for
We can
here.
alias this. We can reorder it, whatever we want. For the front end team.
Exactly. And we haven't demoed this yet. It's in the Hot Chocolate documentation. You can also do things like add filters, add sorting, or add pagination, which, gosh, just is fantastic. Not having to implement that myself, either as a back end or front end, saves you a load of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, the very last thing I will show you, what we could do is we could have we could have copied that query, but unfortunately I hit Alt F4 and closed it. But I do want to show you, because we kind of stepped over it, where we're calling it. So let's go into the Blazor UI, and we'll go back to our GraphQL fetcher, just to walk you through the code. Look, there's that breakpoint we set earlier. And you see we're calling GraphQL.getWelcome. So I think I should be able to hit Control click, but I think my my
Yeah, for me,
magnification.
it's F12.
No. Well, let's try it. Oh, nice, thank you. Okay, hotkey F12. It took us to this GraphQL client, and we see here is, oh my gosh, where did it go? Here's the very simple query that we're calling, just welcome, with nothing else. Right? So all we would have to do is paste in our much more complex query here, and then our app would start to return that complex data that we had. So what I'm hoping to show you with this, yeah, we can modify the front end very, very quickly to get feedback from our stakeholder right in the room.
Sure.
What we can also do is modify the back end and front end interactions very, very rapidly, so that we can mock up the entire app, front end and middle tier, and back end, and then start divvying out the work of, all right, front end team, make this look better. Here's what we're going to need you to do. Middleware team, here are the general queries that it looks like we're going to need. And back end team, start coding out the REST APIs, or let us know if there's other calls we have to make. All three teams can work independently. We can start working towards a solution rapidly, and we can get our stakeholders the productionized version of this app going really, really rapidly, and make sure that they can get the value they need quickly.
Yeah, this is pretty exciting. Looking at it, I can already see a scenario where we pull that Git questionnaire, we build out a Blazor UI, and we basically have a questionnaire UI rolling in a day or two, as opposed to weeks or months in our traditional processes. So, Samir, again, this is amazing. Is there anything else you wanted to share, or I, or we're going to just have to keep adding to this series? And as people give us comments and tell us what you want to see, we'll keep bringing Samir back to add to this, or even show us other really interesting toolkits.
Exactly. We'd love to hear what people are asking for. There's definitely a lot more that we could do. So we could hook this up fully to a Fire service, and start producing a Blazor UI for Fire.
Yeah.
We could also instrument more mutation classes, and that's actually inserting data right into a Fire backend, or calling some of the REST API backend. But what I want to do is leave the starter kit as it is until we get more comments to know what to include. What are people interested in including?
All right, you heard that. So if you want to see us go end to end, let us know. If you want to see us add mutations, which we manipulate the data in the back end, say that. If you want to see us just really build out that questionnaire query example, let us know. Whatever you want to do, Samir is going to walk you through it, because this toolkit that him and his team has worked on is amazing. And as you can see in just this short series of videos, but it's not even an hour real time, we've been able to build a fantastic application worthy of showing to my stakeholders and saying, okay, see, we can actually get something going that meets all of our security standards, uses the latest technology, and is very easy and efficient to develop for, using our team's existing skill set. So Samir, excuse me, I apologize. Samir, thank you so much for coming on. Matt, it's always good to see you. and we will all see you in the next session in this series.
Thanks so much. This was great.
Thanks.
Yeah.